Yes, you're still watching Power Breakfast right here on Citizen TV, and we continue with our news review this morning with Senators Kimani, Wamatangi and Hassan, Omar, and Member of Parliament Richard Onyonka.
Yes, can I clarify something?
Yes, Member of the National Assembly.
Yeah, Members of Parliament. But people are used to calling
MPs. Members of the National Assembly.
Senators are not MPs.
Yeah.
We are all MPs. Members of Parliament.
But do you use the abbreviation MP?
Yes. In fact, our names is, we will say Honorable Hassan Omar MP. Okay. They don't say Honorable Hassan Omar Senator.
Let me clarify. Senators and Member of the National Assembly. Now let's take a look at what is headlining on the Star this morning. Yes, they're all MPs. So, who fails to break deadlock on Jubilee posts? Now, President meets governors, affiliate party leaders. Yesterday, of course, he met them at State House in readiness for the flurry of activities which begin this morning. And, of course, what is happening is that the individual parties, these parties that intend to dissolve, are holding their own national delegates conventions or conferences for that matter separately. Some at the Bomas of Kenya, some at the Kasarani, and they're expected to dissolve by the end of today in readiness for the formation of the Jubilee party, which will be launched on Saturday. But before that happens, of course, there's this scramble for party positions, and that's the politics within Jubilee party now. And of course, TNA, URP are the bigger parties, and they are saying we're going to go with more positions. We've already seen PNU has pulled out. They're not going to hold their national delegates conference today, so probably they will not be available to merge into Jubilee. But what exactly is happening in terms of this sharing of party positions in the envisaged party?
Well, in my view, and for the information of most of our members, to begin with, I think we need to state clearly, as per our position now, our focus is on this process towards the launch on Saturday, and our energies must be focused on to making that a reality and the event a complete success, and then also to allay any fears and demystify there's perception that there is a lot that is packaged in interim party positions. There isn't. And secondly, also for sitting members of Parliament, political aspirants for political offices, the way to go for the party is that none of all those that will be vying for positions will be officials at all, anywhere. Within the boards of election, within the steering groups of any of the formative or leadership committees or positions of that party. It should be completely separated. It will be completely separated. That's what we'll be gearing out for. Because what we have said, which is our underline, is to ensure that there is going to be fairness that will be seen, that will be practiced, that will be believed in this new party. And remember, and I want to make this quick, we said that the first flag that will be flying is to ensure that we'll say to all Kenyan people that for the first time now, you can go to a nomination process. And after that nomination, you can feel that justice has been dispensed, that you have gotten fair judgment from the electorate, not from individuals who sit in a club or a group. And to make that a reality, we must start from the word go, by ensuring that nobody who is aspiring, who has interest, will be anywhere near there. So I want to say this to our people clearly, that that let's not really spend a lot of time, wasting energy on issues that are non-effective.
But from our history and surely the history of such party delegates conventions, I do not know if we're sure if we're right to say that it's a non-issue and dismiss it like that, because a few years back, and you remember what happened at Kasarani when it was being branded Kichinjio. And you remember party positions, especially in KANU, which was the main party at that time. Once you got a position within the party, that was huge. And you remember when the former president, the retired president, one time quipped and told someone that, Professor, kama jina yako haiko hapo, basi hakuna. And that meant a lot. Going forward, there was positions of Secretary General that were given then to Raila Odinga and someone else. And is it right to actually dismiss this scramble and say it's a non-issue? for Jubilee?
I think for me, I wouldn't have agreed much more with Senator Wamatangi. I completely agree with him. I think we people who are going to seek political office, let us allow our parties to get individuals who are substantive, who are known within the party leadership, to come and manage the matters and issues of our political parties.
But what about who occupies what position? Which party provides a Secretary General, for example?
I think that can be negotiated within the party leaderships. After
the convention?
No,
after
during.
Of the party?
My feeling is that that should be done before the convention, because once the convention has taken place and the names have been announced, there isn't much that is going to take place. So if there are members of these political parties who are raising queries, and I'm informed from what we are reading in a section of the media, the information we have is that some of them have already agreed, and now they are basically down to the nitty-gritties, because the negotiations are going to be based on, one, the constitutionality of what they are setting up. Number two, your issues are going to come in like gender. You're going to have issues of the geographical distribution of the positions from different areas. I would assume, for example, that some members from the region I represent, which is the area of Kisii, will come in and they'll be given that responsibility to be part and parcel of the Jubilee Party. I would wish that CORD would also do the same, because the point I'll give you is this. Take an example where John Bandi is now the chairman of ODM. You are making an assumption that when the nominations are going to come in the next 2-3 months, that you are actually going to dislodge him as a candidate who's going to run for his seat from his constituency, and yet he's the chairman of the party. And in fact, he's going to be signing some of the party certificates for the member who has dislodged him. I mean, it's completely unacceptable. So my feeling is, for me, I would wish and I would hope that this team from Jubilee would sit. They would agree with the Deputy President, President Uhuru, and all the other interested parties to an amicable manner. Sometimes, I remember during the time when I was a member of KANU, this would be actually one of the major events before the convention. There would be all these in-house arrangements. People will be complaining. There will be a trade-off between this region and that region. I think they are going to use the old provinces. They'll pick 8 individuals from the old provinces to be at the senior level management. Then you will come to all these other committees. You're going to have the election boards. I think there's so much that can be shared. But I think what is most important, like Senator Wamatangi has said, let us have individuals who are not going to run for political office being given responsibilities of running political office.
Let me tell you, it's an assumption. It depends on what value systems inform you. I always believed that these issues of fairness, equity, are always issues of person. They are individual, whether you secure them through any process. Look, if the Democratic Convention is anything to go by in the U.S., Hillary was not a member of any of the committee, yet there is enough evidence to demonstrate that Hillary influenced the outcome against Bernie Sanders. So it's a question of the integrity of individuals. So if individuals lack integrity, then they will influence these processes in a manner that injure political or intra-party democracy. But for me, let me make this right. First and foremost, what's happening in Jubilee concerns me least, but it only informs my strategy. I don't need to be a consultant for Jubilee in how for them to manage their intra-party politics. In fact, we've always said that at some point when you see there's jostling in political terms, if you are a sincere strategist on the part of CORD, the jostling actually shows enthusiasm. If there was no jostling, then you will have demonstrated that the party counts for nothing.
But also it demonstrates a possibility of a fallout.
A fallout is always evident. Every political process is always faced with the risks when the balance of interests are not secured across board. Then it can precipitate a fallout. But for me, I think it would be important for us. When I was in a cadet, Brigadier retired Bishop Rotich taught us a course, and I wish it is offered in schools, the art of generalship. What a good general does when his opponent appears to be having a surge. there's something called a tactical retreat. That tactical retreat helps you to reorganize. Sometimes committing your forces when the enemy is on a charge could lead to massive dent of your arsenal. So you look at the capacity, size him up, because what Jubilee has done is to give us a curtain raiser of what to expect in the next election. So therefore, it allows you to plan. It allows you to now focus yourself on a strategy so that you are able to circumvent that muscle by you know, there are various strategies of winning a war. It could be through a frontal attack, it could be through the left or side flank, it could be through envelopment, it could be by many other processes. And I think unless we move away from our conventional rhetoric and strategy, I think it would be foolhardy for us not to go back to the drawing table and size up the adversary called Jubilee come the next election.
Yeah. Do you agree that this jostling for party positions could portend some weakness within the Jubilee party, even before you start?
Well, I don't think so, but can I first comment on something Senator Omar has said? And you know, I saw in the press yesterday evening, even today morning, that actually CORD was quick and fast on its heels to organize their own version of launch in Mombasa. I don't know whether they have had time to follow the wisdom and advice of one of their members, Senator Hassan, because
that's an ODM matter. We'll be looking at that.
Because I find that quite interesting. But let me emphasize precisely what I said. That jostling that is perceived to be there is one, if it is there, it's ill-informed, it's misinformed. We are clear, and we'll be stating this very, very clearly. Actually, anybody who occupies any interim position in the new party, for purposes of facilitation, there has to be from the onset a clear timeline as to when they should vacate that position as interim, if it is within 2 weeks or whatever. Because, see, and we've done it before as a party. If you look at the chairmanship of, for example, a party like QRP, it's been in the hands of a gentleman called Muteti, who is not a politician. If you look at the Secretary General of TNA, has been Onyonka, who is not a politician. That is what we want to go. I mean, because we want to be, as I said earlier, in the politics of today, move away from those ills that you tried to allude, or you did allude to, you know, when we started, that this is what happened in Kasarani. Professor was told, if your name is not there, then pole sana. We must make a complete and clear breakaway, and that one we are keen and intent and determined to do, because it is the only way we can rewrite the future of politics in this country. And that's what we are going to do. I said this in several other forums. Saturday is going to be a game changer in the political landscape of this country. Now people will start seeing political parties in a different version if we do, and we will do what we have said we will do. Now a political party can be able to own a manifesto, say this is what we stand for, live for it, hand it over to another generation of politicians. And the only way to do that is to make sure that there is absolute transparency, that that competition between politicians is fair, and people can know that when you stand for this, then you can go forward. If you don't,
incidentally, and a quick question, incidentally, in one quick statement, what is the ideology of the Jubilee Party? One quick statement. Our new Jubilee Party, one, let me not just make it a very quick statement, let me make it in a few words. Because for like ODM, they say it is social democracy. What does Jubilee stand for? First, we will stand for a clear and straightforward path of development of our country and delivering on the ideals and expectations of our people in moving this country forward. One, and if you look at our Jubilee manifesto, the one that we launched when we came, because we are not moving away from what we have believed in all the way. We have had, first, remember, we had 3 pillars even when we launched our Jubilee Party. We had Wazi, Uchumi, you know, that sounds like a good motto, but now, and in those pillars, in those pillars, we have broken them down into
deliverables, which we have had very, very clear in our development agenda, which is clear in our record. We are not saying that we are forming this new party to move away from what we have believed in the past, which you can see is what has taken us to where we are. We are saying that with this new arrangement now, and what we have been doing has worked. Because that's why Kenyans now have faith in what we've been doing. We want to make it and take it a lot higher by ensuring that now we take away the illegitimacy of political processes.
Okay. Yeah, Fred, don't worry. Wamatangi can't talk about an ideology because there's none. Trust me on that one. This is a convenient vehicle for political competition. These vehicles come and go, change faces, they transform. So therefore, and once that political objective is the
same for Wiper
is achieved. Most of these parties, once the political objectives is achieved, they disband. So I can tell you for a fact, even Wiper, unless it is able to imbue itself with a camaraderie of young people, renewed politicians who really know what ideology means and where they stand, and it is manifest in their actions and in their conduct of government, it cannot happen. You hear some of these colleagues of mine. You hear some of these colleagues of mine talking about ideology, that we are a social democratic movement or a social democratic party, and you ask him, Chief, what does that mean? He has no idea from the rhetoric. And when you look at his policies, there's nothing social democratic about those policies. Social democracy is an ideology where you put the people at the center, where the word social justice is the mainstay, where you give opportunities to the people who the system is skewed against, where you're able to, where government comes in to intervene, to mitigate and give dignity to the lives of our people. And when you look at this, it's not manifest in most of the political coalitions or even in terms of the units of government. And then for Wamatangi to make it appear like Jubilee Secretary Generals of both URP and TNA are not politicians is a misnomer. These people are politicians but have not succeeded in their own basis. So they are politicians.
Negotiators.
Because if Ojago law stands no chance on a TNA ticket in any part of Luo Nyanza, where inherently that is home. Same for my brother Muteti. He did try his hand in politics and therefore realized that so it is easy and convenient for you. In fact, if you want to get nominated, Fred, I don't know which region you come from, you go to the party that is not dominant in your region and appear to give a little face. You see, like, look at the nominated members of, let's say, the National Assembly, like Maura. You come and say, listen, I come from Central Kenya, so nominate me as ODM, because that ODM will be interested in showing the national face. Look at Joy Gwendo and a few others who have been nominated by the Jubilee coalition. So you stand a better chance when you're on the other side if you're on the nomination. You look at the matrix of politics. That's why even Wiper wants to change its format of nomination. Not to just, it must be about character, it must be about ideology, it must be about the value that you import politically. And what is the utility once you're nominated into that parliament in terms of championing the causes or the constituencies that you represent. So I think we need to also evaluate our politics deeply. For me, this weekend is a sad day for progressive politics. The progressive politicians of our time who had the mantle to ensure that they breed in a good number of progressive political class that can then, continue with the struggle of a better Kenya, have failed miserably. They've allowed good garb of ideology, good garb of what we have represented all along, to be borrowed by Jubilee, and now they are using the same rhetoric that we have used all along in the political opposition to also advance their causes. And this is what happens when you appear that you yourself are poorly organized, when you appear you yourself not to necessarily espouse and vote for the things that you stand for. So opportunists come and poach those ideas from you and then brand them in their own political outfits.
Yes, and incidentally, before we come to the branding now that you mentioned, you are in ODM, but you seem to be moving to the other side. So this Saturday, where will you be, Mombasa or Nairobi? Because
I'll tell you this, I've not been invited to go to Mombasa, but Jubilee has invited me, and I'll be in Nairobi as an observer.
So you will attend the Jubilee National Delegates Convention?
I think it's important that I do. I also wanted to mention that, like Senator Omar said, for me, I look at what is happening in Kenya today as a work in progress. It would be foolhardy for us to think that there is so much we expect from a political class. The reality is that these are works in progress, and I believe that the country right now, even whatever the Jubilee is trying to do, is something that we have to look at. We have to start evaluating ourselves as a country in terms of what is it that our political parties are going to do. Truth be told, like Senator Hassan has said, do these parties have ideologies? I don't think so.
None of
but
them.
I think the public,
across the board,
yes, but the public is slowly beginning to have expectations about what are we going to do with our poverty levels, what are we going to do with people who are vulnerable, what are we going to do in terms of the development agenda of both these political parties. In other words, if let's make an assumption that CORD was to take over the presidency of this country. Have we ever discussed, or have we ever had anything that CORD as a team will say what are they going to do in terms of the economic development, in terms of the infrastructure, all these things, in terms of the environmental issues, the green technology. I think with time, both the two political parties and any other parties, I wish we had I don't know that we have a green party, but I wish we would have a green party, which would be articulating issues, environment in Kenya, and which would come up with policies and positions which can be believed in. So my general feeling is, to me, we need to start engaging ourselves whichever side of the coin we belong to, whether you're going to be in CORD or whether you're going to be in Jubilee. I heard Senator Wamatangi try and explain what the ideology is. I think it would be very easy for you people to say your ideology is kusema na kutenda. Maybe you can add something there. Because it was a motto.
Something I think we need to be clear about. One, you see, everybody is a politician. Even Mama Mboga in Kongowea, or in Wangige Market, or in Kisumu, is a politician. That's why you can persuade them and raise their political, participation and awareness. And the only difference between them and myself is they aspire to hold political offices. So to that extent, when I mentioned and referred to individuals like the two, who are in the leadership of our former parties, so to say, after today, is to say yes, they have a political mind and heart, but then they've not aspired, and that's what we're saying about positions which are going to be held by leaders in the new Jubilee. Secondly, you see, ideology is fed and informed by the daily actions that profess what you stand for. That's the only way you can be able to speak of an ideology. It's not words written on a book and paper and folded. And that's why I said we as Jubilee, our ideological, our values, what we stand for is our ideology. What we do every day, what we've been doing for the past 3 years. That's our ideology. And we are not saying that we are blind to the fact that parties have conducted and they have been, so to say in quotes, useless vessels that have just delivered people to political offices in the past. And that is why, and this needs to be clear, that is why we have made a firm decision to move away from that procedure, from that norm, and create a new higher threshold for political parties, whereby they will cease to be what they were at that particular time and embrace real ideology, real values, the real philosophy. And this is the work that we have right now, that we intended to do.
If I was to interpret what you have been doing for the last 3 years, because they are distinct political ideologies, Wamatangi, unless you go to, you become a PhD fellow or researcher and come up with a new ideology, they're either you're in the center left, center right. So what Jubilee has manifested itself over the last 3 years is ultra right. Blind pursuit of capital, extreme. Their unit of development is standard gauge rather than human development index. So that's extreme right, pro-war. Then it manifests itself in some kind of ethno-fascism, where it builds on ethnic camaraderie. So if you are to interpret what you have done manifestly, then it is an ideology that Kenya does not need.
Yes, and I do agree. I do agree when this discussion about ideology.
Let me explain something here very quickly. A very quick one, because of what my colleague very briefly. You see, Fred, if you wrote the number 6 or 9 and put it in between here and tell Hassan Omar to stand on that side and I stand on this side, he'll read it as 6. I would read it as 9 from where I see it. and it just depends on what view you choose to hold. So the views that the Senator Omar holds are because of where he stands, and when he looks at the vision of what Kenyans can see and feel today, he sees it as number 6. We see it as number 9. From where we
let me tell you something.
That's the whole difference. From where you
go to any school of politics, what I'm saying actually, Wamatangi is right and you are wrong.
There's no number 6. This debate will not go ahead. And as I said,
go to any school of politics, what I've said is very right.
Let's end it there. Gentlemen,
just because you are wrong.
Not heading anywhere. Let's talk about something that we can see and understand. And this is the branding that we can actually see. And the Jubilee Party has dismissed claims that it is using taxpayers' money to fund its National Delegates Convention. In a show of might, the Jubilee Party organizers have pulled all stops to put in place plans for the grand merger, including branding vehicles and accessories to ensure the message about the new party is loud, visible and clear days before the grand launch. And as Jackie Maribe reports, the 3-day convention set to kick off today has generated much publicity in both mainstream and social media.
A new dawn is coming. Joining together to build a better Kenya.
With a reported 300 million shilling budget to execute the 3-day convention, the Jubilee Party organizers are keen on an elaborate and grand affair.
Tuko pamoja.
These cars, branded in party colors and messages, stamping a red presence along the streets of the capital, have been set aside for beyond the convention Saturday.
All systems are ready to go.
Signage across the city streets has seen these billboards erected in readiness. The publicity playing out in major counties, but in Homa Bay, youth would ban one such billboard, saying it was a quad zone, the presence of the Jubilee signage an unwelcome presence. In Nairobi's Pangani estate, the new base of operations for the party will be moved here, effectively closing shop all party headquarters of the folding parties Thursday. The glitz and the glamour expected to be witnessed through this Jubilee Party launch is not new to them, but the spectacular show of might not going without criticism from opposition quarters.
You know, people can say anything. They can even say I'm a woman. Do I become a woman because they've said so? As you know, we receive political parties funds. Some of our parties get a substantial amount of money from that fund. And then this is one of the greatest parties in this country. It is the party whose party leader is the president, who has a lot of friends.
With the new party's ideals cut across ethnic, religious and regional barriers has been the invitation card of those keen to support it, with this messaging to boot.
Gentlemen, what I want from you is a handshake. Yo, sasa. Okay, handshake and action.
And on Thursday, the 11 parties party to the merger will cease to exist by ratification of the dissolution.
Okay, and action.
Yes, on the other side, the Orange Democratic Party plans elaborate 10th anniversary celebrations on Saturday that will rival the Jubilee Party launch in fanfare. Details released for the event in Mombasa reveal ODM plans to unleash its own branded fleet at the ceremony that will also feature a guest appearance by a popular international musician. The revelations were made even as party leader Raila Odinga continued his visit of Kakamega.
ODM may have initially planned a simple event to mark its 10th birthday. But the display of raw financial muscle by the yet-to-be-launched Jubilee Party has apparently forced a rethink of Saturday's celebration style by the opposition party. ODM plans its own show of flamboyance and razzmatazz. ODM Deputy Party Leader Ali Hassan Joho is scheduled to flag off 47 ODM-branded buses on Thursday to ferry delegates from the 47 counties. A further 823 branded vehicles will be deployed across the country for campaigns. The vehicles reportedly donations from ODM loyalists. A roadshow is planned for the ODM party leader on Friday in Mombasa before being hosted for dinner by the Mombasa governor. According to ODM's Director of Elections, Junet Mohammed, 450 MCAs, 110 MPs, 18 senators and 10 governors, among other delegates, have confirmed attendance. ODM plans to use its 10th anniversary to chart a new political direction in a ceremony to be crowned by Tanzanian celebrated artist Diamond's performance on Saturday evening. But even as details of the ODM bash unfolded, ODM leader Raila Odinga was in Kakamega town on day 3 of his Western campaign tour, on a charm offensive to galvanize the party's support in the region. The Orange Party took jabs at Jubilee, questioning the source of the war chest funding Jubilee expected launch.
Ile sherehe ambao wako nayo Nairobi bilioni 2 siku moja, na tuko na watu wetu wengi ambao wanalala njaa.
Ati Jubilee wataleta chama mpya, sikia sijui wengine URP, sijui TNA, sijui New for Kenya, na ni wingi yote wataingia mbali pamoja. Hiyo ni sawasawa, wajiandae. Nasema hiyo ni kama ile nyani mkongwe anaingia kwa msitu mpya.
ODM downplaying the planned defections of its MPs and governors to Jubilee Party on Saturday, the party branding defectors as traitors.
Nataka niwaambie, ugatuzi tuliutafuta kwa shida na hatutakubali magavana wasaliti.
Nasikia unasema ati siku hiyo watapeleka majumbe wa kadhaa ya ODM, ataweka atajiunga na JAB. Sisi nguvu yetu iko kwa wananchi. Wale ambao wanataka kwenda, sisi kuna wengi ambao wataingia.
On Thursday, Raila will be in Malava constituency.
Yes, so even as ODM leader Raila Odinga continues with his tour of Malava constituency today, a lot of activities are happening back here in Nairobi. In a short while, we'll be discussing that branding, the expenditure. We're hearing amounts being branded here and there, 2,300 million shillings. We'll be discussing that in a short while. But now, let's go over to Bomas of Kenya, where our reporter Hassan Mugambi is on standby. We do understand that's where one UDF and APK parties are holding their national delegates conferences, and he gives us an update on what exactly is happening today. Mugambi.
Well, thank you very much, Fred Indimule. We are coming to you, as you've rightly put it, live from the Bomas of Kenya, where delegates are currently on their way, making their way into the different venues of their separate political party meetings, where they will be just forming small meetings here and there so that they can agree on the dissolution of their respective political parties to join the Jubilee Party that is set to be launched on Saturday. They have arrived here, and currently as you can see, it is a very, very big crowd just moving towards the auditorium. They were actually verifying their names in those particular delegates lists, and they have come from far and wide in different places, and it is quite chaotic right now. They have just been released. They were checking their names, quite a frustrating process to some of them who were actually not finding their names in real good times. Remember, these are people who have come from far, and they were just here to make that particular it is quite chaotic, I must say. And they came from far, different places, logistical challenges here and there. They at first did not know where to go, what to do. They have their delegates' identification cards, and they were just verifying where to go and how to go about it. The party officials were here to actually just get to direct them. Actually, they have gotten here and they have directed them in their different places. A few minutes from now, the party officials will be, the different party officials will be making their way here so that they can hold and spearhead that particular delegation conferences in their respective venues so that they can get to decide upon the dissolution of their parties to join the Jubilee party that is set to be launched this Saturday. There's an array of activity that is going to be happening here at the Bomas of Kenya, which we will be keeping you posted upon. We have parties like the JAP, we have the New Ford Kenya, we have the UDF party and APK, who will be converging this morning to just get to decide and deliberate upon the dissolution of their respective parties. And as you can hear right from behind me, parties just coming in their pomp and color, and those must be delegates from Western Kenya. That must be New Ford Kenya, just making their way in. The Sukuti dance here. Coming in their Western Kenya style. It is pomp and color here at the Bomas of Kenya. And in Imule, that is how some of the parties are just making their way here at the Bomas of Kenya. As far as we get some more information about what will be happening in the next step. This is just the arrival of the delegates making their way into the different auditoriums that have been set aside for them in their respective parties, and we will be coming to you later on and just telling you what is happening after that. Over to you, Fred Inimuli.
Thank you, Hassan Mugambi. Very interesting pictures there from Bomas of Kenya, live pictures from the Bomas of Kenya, where a number of parties that are expected to dissolve today are holding their separate national delegates conferences to actually ratify the dissolution ahead of the formation and culmination of the Jubilee party, which will be launched this Saturday. Of course, we'll be keeping tabs on that, and as you can see, our reporters are all over town. Elsewhere, the Kasarani, URP and TNA will be meeting, Field 1, GNU, and Fort People, Field 2, Tip. At the Bomas of Kenya, we understand NFK, JAP, RC, and UPK are also there. Now, back here in studio, we're still reviewing the news, and back to that debate about the branding and the matter of spending, because yes, we do understand that there was an amount branded by Jubilee Party. They came out and said they're spending not less than 300 million shillings, and we can see the vehicles, the branded vehicles, the building, the majestic building that's now the party headquarters. Now, ODM, on the other hand, says they're going to hold their 10th anniversary celebrations in Mombasa, talking about 47 branded buses that will travel all over Kenya to pick delegates for the party. 823 branded vehicles to traverse all the counties. They've hired artist Diamond Platinum to entertain guests along Mamangina Drive, and they say that there will be dramatic fireworks. Now, of course, according to Jubilee, this is not coincidence. It is ODM is simply trying to match up to what you're doing at in Nairobi.
It's called copycatting. But we've allowed them. That one we have no war with them. You know, you learn from the best and copy the best. Okay. And so we welcome them after the launch. They can now then do theirs. We will continue to lead. They may continue to copy us. But let me first tell you one thing that I'm happy and excited about. You see, those images that you have shown on TV this morning, because those are the images that this country wants to see from now onwards. Those images of defiance, the defiance of the old thought line and the political preaching that has been happening to this country, that we can continue to separate our people, that we can continue to divide them and tell them, as long as you speak this language, or as long as you come from that region, you cannot be able to come together and see things in the same way and do things in the same way. So when you see those people from Meru, from APK, and those ones who are, you know, dancing with their isukuti and whatever, all converging together, that is the Kenya I want to see in future. You know, where we don't, it doesn't matter where we come from, but we can say this is where we want to move as a country. Now, on the question of on the spending that has been said, oh, Jubilee spending so much or spending so much, I first want to be very clear. We have no apologies to make for being more organized than our competition. We have always been more organized. And
2 billion
and you see, there is nothing like 2 billion. Let me tell you the whole story. You see, what you require to do to have a good show is to be clear, is to plan ahead, is to put your structures in place and move on. And if you want to attract supporters, if you want to attract donors, then show them the real thing. Show them that you're giving them hope, that you're going somewhere, that you can deliver. Then let me ask you a question, Fred. Why do people go to church and tithe? Why does a preacher there stand and tell people, bring your envelopes? And they bring envelopes full of hundreds of thousands of shillings and put them in a box, and they don't ask where this money went. It's because they have been given something to believe in, that when we give our tithe, it's going to go to good use. It's going to change the things. So this story about taxpayers, you know, Jubilee, as you have seen, and let me save the rest of the talk for after Saturday, because after Saturday you will see what will happen. The reality has changed. The ground has shifted. This country is a new country now. People think differently, not that we used to think before. If you show the people of this country from Kisumu, from Mombasa, from central Kenya, from Kirinyaga, you tell them that we can make this country, in the words of Trump, but not what he does, that we can make this country great again. Let me tell you how the whole country moving.
Do you feel the ground shifting, Omar?
First and foremost, Fred, I wish young people are listening out there and to give them hope that politics in this country is still possible without money. It's a bit about an ideology of money that has been perpetrated by both sides of the political divide. People have come to progressive parties and have bought their ways to these parties. They have decimated the role of progressive politicians by simply being patrons to these parties. And yet, there was a point in which Kenyans aspired for quality leadership and a shift in terms of the dynamism of how we do things. So it's very sad when I say it's a sad day. This show of opulence on both sides does not remedy the situation. In fact, today I know young people out there who've told me, whenever I try to tell them, let's join this struggle together, they always tell me, Senator, it's not going to be easy without money. Even when I traverse Mombasa County, a lot of people say you are definitely our better choice. But how far have you prepared your arsenal when it comes to money? Because it has been the SI unit of what has informed our politics for a long time. So you cannot scandalize money just because you don't have it now. You know, you have played that politics. You have fallen into the trap of people who, by their standards, did you hear what Kiraitu was trying to say? He was telling you, our president is the richest man in the country, when he says he has friends.
And they say they have no apology to make.
So when you play the politics of money, you are setting yourself up for failure. When you play the game of your adversary, you give him what is called home court advantage. When you give him or her home court advantage, you stand very little chance against him. So CORD must reorganize itself by doing analysis of what Jubilee has in its arsenal. Because what Jubilee is doing is that it is firing its missiles left, right and center. So you know where Jubilee has its air defense systems, you know where Jubilee has positioned its tank, its armory. So on the basis of that, with your little resources, you use ideas, you use ideological clarity.
And what ODM is doing right now, is it just a simple reaction? Is it organized?
I don't mind ODM celebrating their 10th anniversary. In fact, they have every right to demonstrate that. In fact, it is probably one of the parties that has survived that long, and therefore it is manifested a reason to celebrate. But they cannot match Jubilee every penny for penny. So they need to have a strategy far more superior in terms of our reorganization. I can tell you, as I have seen it in the social media, that if my brother Hassan has funded this celebration, when you look at the person of Uhuru Kenyatta, he can buy off all that with just one check from a small company. So if it is about money, then if we want to show similar grandeur, then we are losing the plot. We must show ourselves as superior in vision and bring in the quality of people that can lead this country to the next century.
Actually, for me, it borders on the theater of absurdity. The truth and the reality is that Kenyan politics is money-based. It is extremely difficult for anybody to argue with even the Kenyan voter in terms of whether this voter is going to vote for you because you have outstanding ideas or whether you're performed. And that's why many members of parliament, for example, after being elected, don't even care about what they need to do. For the simple reason that many of them have come with the thinking that what happens is you go into office for 5 years, you must be able to either raise the money, steal it, or beg for it, and have an arsenal so that on the last 2 months, 3 months of the elections, you just buy yourself into office, and then you wait for another 5 years and you do nothing. And yet, even when that is our reality, I just think I'll talk about CORD and then I'll talk about Jubilee. CORD would have done it a little bit better. If I was the party leadership of CORD, I would have asked all the county the governors that CORD has to make sure they organize activities where they would clean up the streets, where they would visit the hospitals and make sure that those hospitals are also cleaned up, make sure they bring in young people who have got ideas, and they would basically maybe move in and go to a stadium and recite messages of hope and messages of upliftment. But as you've said, as you've had 47 buses, multiply every bus costing 10 million. That is 470 million that CORD wants to spend. 824 cars at 3 million a car. You're talking about, Jesus Christ, that's more than $1 billion. Come and
they're
talk
donated
about
by party members. That's what they say.
That's the story. All that for me is inconsequential. The truth is the opulence, the amount of fuel these vehicles would have consumed. It was enough for us to buy malarials and we'd have taken them to health centers and the public would say these are caring people. The Jubilee's case, the same. But as we've said, there is no sympathy in poverty. Somebody said that a long time ago, and he's a Kenyan, and it was Biwott. He said, you are not going to say and come out and tell Kenyans that you're poor, therefore they're going to vote for you. They need to understand that you are thinking.
You can tell Biwott there's no pride in stealing.
There's no. He was saying there's no pride in poverty, but Omar is saying there's no pride in stealing. I think that is his thinking. My honest observation is that it could have been done a little bit differently, but in terms of marketing, Jubilee, if I was to rate what Jubilee is doing and what CORD is going to do, I would, as we speak right now, I would give Jubilee an 8 or a 9. I would most probably give CORD a 6 or a 7, but we haven't seen what CORD has come up with.
Clearly, as we wrap up, clearly you've decided, you've made your choice, and you're going to be attending the National Delegates Convention in Nairobi. But because we've heard that at least 5 governors are going to defect, 35 legislators are going to defect to Jubilee. Are you one of them? As we wrap up, because we're wrapping up.
No, I'm not one. I have been invited to attend the Jubilee launch. I will go there as an observer.
Still as a member of ODM.
Still as a member of ODM, for the simple reason that I still have responsibilities. I've not even resigned from ODM as a party. Once I get to the point where it is legally acceptable for me to resign, I will, if that is what I need to do. So you will eventually join the Jubilee Party? Most probably, yes. Most probably.
Yes, as we wind up.
I think, as I said, it's a sad day for Kenya ideologically on both ends. That politics has lost the narrative about good government, about quality leadership. And it's we are playing into Jubilee's theatrics of you know, brandishing cars and branded cars. I think our strength has never been in the opulence. Our strength has always been in ideology, our history and struggle. And I think I want to assure young people that as long as we breathe, we will try where technically possible and practically possible to give them that opportunity to exercise their inner thoughts and their passions, so that we create a country and a generation that truly now shifts the paradigm of this country in a manner that is more meaningful, that posterity can embrace, and that this will be regarded as the golden generation. With all these murky waters, I see hope. In fact, sometimes when you're about to witness a shift, and a fundamental shift, there's a lot of chaos. And it is in this chaos that great leadership emerges, that great visions are put into place, and great programs are rolled out. And I believe that's the moment of greatness. But for us, we need to rethink our strategy. Let's not just pretend that our friends are not giving power a serious onslaught. And if we need to have competition that is viable, then we need to be able to reorganize ourselves, stop living in denial. Our members are moving, and they are moving for various reasons, including poor leadership within some of their domain. If you hear why so many members are moving out, particularly in the coast region, they all point their fingers to one or two people trying to position themselves as kingpins and queenpins. And therefore, I think it's important to play a politics that is more pragmatic and that captures the new mood and the fact that there's a young people generation out there that looks at hope as one of their most important driving force. Okay.
And even as Wamatangi makes his final comments, we'd like to share live pictures from the Kasarani, where delegates are also arriving from various parties. And as we said earlier, that's Kasarani, the arena. URP and TNA will be holding their separate national delegates conventions there. Field 1 will host GNU and Ford People. Field 2, Tip. And those are live pictures from the Kasarani. You can see the security there. And members of these parties arriving. They're still outside the gates. They will be let in just in a matter of minutes. But Wamatangi, this is your turn to give your final comment before we head on to Kasarani.
You see, last week, I need to say this to our viewers. Last week we circulated messages and information to our supporters. We said, if you have your vehicle and you would like to support the party, please bring it, brand it at your own cost. We're charging about 30,000-40,000 to brand a vehicle, and let it be part of the party support. We told our members, if you are there in the rural areas or within Nairobi, and you can mobilize as many people to come and support the party during its launch, please come. The gates will be open on Saturday. And that's why you see we have given our people, our supporters, hope and something to believe in, to support the party, and hence what you are seeing in the complaints from our competitors, that there is grandeur. Now the point is this, that's why I said very clearly that we have no apologies to make for being better organized, because we have better organization in towards where we want to take this country. And you see, I hear all the lamentations by all the CORD guys around and their supporters. You know, there was a time when there was some breaking news that said that beware, there's a train that has run away from the railway station, headed towards the Githurai railway line, and they reported that there are some railway police who are hot in pursuit of this runaway train, and this is what I want to say to our colleagues in court. You know, because this train that has run away, you know, and taken on to a journey, you know, somewhere. This guy is just a propagandist.
Gentlemen, that has been Senator Kimani Wamatangi, Senator Kiambu County, Senator Hassan, Omar, Senator Mombasa County, Member of Parliament for Kitutu, Chache, or Kisii Town as he calls it, Richard Onyonka. Thank you so much for helping us understand the news this morning. Before we head on to Kasarani, there's one interesting bit that we'll leave you with, and that's a story on page 2 of the Star. Is Ababu's third force on brink of collapse as MPs disown it? That's a story worth reading. But for now, Power Breakfast continues. We'll now take a short musical break. We'll be right back.